Okay, so if you're connected, please confirm you can hear and see
Yeah.
myself and Madam Vera.
But I can't see myself. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you, but it's frozen.
Yeah. I can't see.
Maybe it's just going to load.
You're echoing.
Oh, am I on 2 places? Okay. Okay, please confirm if you can hear and see me, if anyone is connected. Sorry for the delay, just having some technical issues here. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see you. Yes. And I can hear you.
Can
Yes.
anyone else hear us?
Yes, I'm just waiting if someone can confirm. Let me also put a chat.
Okay.
Yeah. So please confirm if you're connected and can hear/see us. Okay. Put it on camera. Okay.
I sent to 2 people. Let me see if they can join first.
Okay. Yeah, but I think this one should definitely work. So it's just once we confirm a third party can hear us, then that's good. Yeah. That's okay.
Yay, Sis Evelyn is here. Good.
Yay.
So,
That's exciting. Thank you.
Evelyn, so you can help us send the link, please, in all those groups that you know where we belong together. Thank you very much. Oh my,
Thank you.
this has been so challenging, but
In fact. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Evelyn. Oh dear.
okay. Sis Evelyn
Okay,
can well.
someone else confirmed that this works. So I think okay, that's great.
Oh, so we're good to go. I think we can start
Oh,
already.
okay. So, yeah, it shows me 6 people connected. So I think they are
Yeah.
hopefully all
So,
hearing and seeing us.
what a day! Thank you so much, Miss Kem. Thank you for.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Technology wants to throw us off balance, but no,
Oh my
we're good
goodness.
now. Thank you very much, everyone. Please, if you can hear us, you can see us, please drop a comment, encourage us. These two sisters have seen hell today. Encourage us, please.
Unbelievable.
It's been
Here,
unbelievable. Thank you,
Peppy
Pepe.
said here at last. Thank you so much.
Here at last. Very much. We are grateful that you're able to give us your Saturday evenings. We don't take it for granted, and we're happy. I'm particularly excited because it's going to be our first collaboration, and I'm happy that it's going to turn out very positive. So just brief introductions. Because this was originally planned to stream from the Reader's Corner, but due to technical issues, we're now streaming on the Montessori stream.
Education, yeah.
So my name is Vera Patrick Azodo. I'm a mom of 2. I'm a professional risk manager by profession, and I'm the founder of the Readerz Corner. What we do at the Readerz Corner is to promote the reading culture in homes, right? We love to see families read. We love to see parents who read books. We want to see children who feast on books. And of course, we know that the result is a generation of lifelong learners. With me on the stream is Nkem. I'm going to give it over to you to introduce yourself briefly and what you do. Thank you,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay. So my name is Nkem Sinachi Agu, and I'm the founder of the Montessori Home Education Academy. Basically, I'll say our mission is to foster the love of learning so that children can teach themselves. We run a Montessori home education program where we coach parents to implement the Montessori method at home. Currently the focus is on children aged 0 to 6 year olds. So generally that's what we do. We also write books. So you can imagine the collaboration with the Readerz Hub and the book
Yeah,
and everything. Yeah. So
yeah, it's a good
um,
one. Thank you.
you're
Ma'am.
welcome.
Thank you. And apologies for the making you cross 7 oceans and seven.
Oh, yeah, I said we'll be experts by the time we're done, but definitely
Oh,
this
yeah.
session will be worth it. So I believe
So,
so.
the thing is, I had a challenge during the week with my Instagram account, and I was talking to a friend. I said, by the time I resolve this issue, I'm
Ah,
going to a consultancy firm. That's for Instagram consultancy.
yeah.
It's not your house come through, because there's no amount of I've not done between
Yeah.
and today. Thank you very much for doing this with us once again. Thank you for all of you on the stream. Please keep your chats and your comments coming in. We want to see that we're not here alone. Moving straight into today's topic, we've already lost a lot of time already, but it's fine. At least we're working now. The topic says unlock your child's academic success one book at a time. This is to commemorate this year's Children's Day. We know that we have a lot of parents in the room today, in the house, and academic success is a major pain point of many parents. Every parent wants to see their child succeed. In fact, every parent wants to see their child perform better than they did. Even though all parents claim to come first in school, we still want our child to be better. So it's quite understandable because you don't want to, have your children operate at the same level where you did so many years ago. We want the best. We want to see them outperform and outlive us, do mighty work that is even greater than what we have done. But then that comes the problem. In a family of 5 or 4 or 3, you find out that one child is the smartest and the other ones are just, crawling by. There are reasons for this. Um, it's not rocket science. Just because both parents are smart does not mean all the children in the house would be smart as well. There's some level of work that needs to be put in. There's some level of research, some brain work that needs to be done to decipher why one child is performing better than the other. And that is what we're here to do. Our focus for today is how we can leverage on the tool consistent reading to boost the children's academic performance. And I'd like to introduce this topic by saying this quote by Albert Einstein, who was the original person who said it, and then all other scholars have also modified it in one way or the other. That every child is born a genius.
Hmm.
Yes, every child is born a genius. And to prove to this, the Bible even tells us that when God looked at what he created, he saw that everything was good. So that tells me that everything created by God is the perfect creation, is of the perfect standard. So any child who is not performing optimally, there is something that needs to be done. It is not from birth. Every child is born a genius, tabla rasa. However, where things get wrong is in the way that the child is raised, is in the parenting, is in the environment, is in the caregivers, is in the daycare. I stumbled upon a quote on TikTok and it says, every child is a genius until they go to school and become stupid. That was so mean. Oh my
Oh my.
God. But if you sit down and reflect on it, then you see that the point the person is trying to make is that these children are born innocent. But when we send them to the wrong schools, under the wrong tutelage, under the wrong caregivers, then things, they begin to go astray. So we already know that the children already come like that, ready to fly. But the difference comes in the environment. And it's my coach that says, Coach Wendy, my mentor, Coach Wendy Ologi, she says that the environment is bigger than the values. So that genius in the child can be suppressed by the wrong environment. And today's environment, we're focusing not on the school, but in the home,
Yeah.
because the home is the first school of the child. All right. So right into the discussion for today, I'm going to pass it on to Nkem and I'm going to ask you a question. How can you make the connection for us between reading and academic performance? What is that cord that joins these two concepts together? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. So yes, I definitely eager to dive right into that. But there was something that just crossed my mind as you were talking about the genius, because funny enough, just a few days ago, I had written down every child is a genius. So it's not a coincidence, you're saying the same
Okay.
thing. And also, I was having an encounter with somebody, and the person said, "Oh, my child is so good at it, but I know every parent thinks their child is a genius, right? So it might just be me that is seeing my child that way." I said, no, every child is actually a genius. But the thing is, what I wrote down is that most times we limit that genius, let's say geniusness or
No,
genius characteristic, we limit it to math and literacy. So that's why even now that you said it, every child is born a genius, someone is like, yeah, you haven't met my child yet. Because they are still seeing it as the child is not a math guru or a literacy, reading and writing guru. And that is what we know as genius a lot of times. So I just wanted to start by clarifying that, if you're still thinking of your child being a genius being just for math and English or math and whatever language you're learning, you need to come down from that point first before we even go ahead. Because that's why they would say the child is a genius and then they go to school, then they are no longer a genius, because school has that structure that is just fitted into a box. They have a set of subjects, and if the child doesn't fit into those subjects, that is the end of their ingenuity.
mhm.
So I just wanted to point that out. Now, okay, the link between reading and academic performance, academic success, it's, in fact, the link is so much. I feel it's almost the same thing. And there's this generally the Montessori approach. Dr. Maria Montessori, she kept emphasizing that our goal is not to raise children for or educate them just for school or for exams, but to educate them for life, right? So when we look at academic success, sometimes we even need to rephrase it a little bit, because when we look at academics, again, it's going back to math, literacy, science, math, literacy, science. You need to come out from that point where you're moving from trying to get your child to read their book, like read your book most times is pick that your school book and read. You need to move from read your book to read a book, because sometimes it even starts from just reading labels, reading something on the road, reading a signpost. Then they get interested in reading. Once your child gets interested in reading and loves it by themselves, any subject is just another book that they're going to read. And then, of course, when they read, they are getting the knowledge. And then the other thing is, when do children start learning how to read? And another key, I say, is, I don't know if it's a quote or a saying, but people say, when your child moves from learning to read to reading to learn, then that is a whole new shift altogether. Because if we're talking about learning how to read, sometimes we're again, in the Montessori approach, we have what we call sensitive periods, which is the key periods when children are most primed to learn how to read. And if you miss that period, it becomes more difficult. It's not impossible, but it becomes more difficult. Now, what is that period? It's typically from the age of 3 to 5. Now, age of 3 to 5, a lot of time, children are still spending most of the time at home with us. So if you're not even familiar that this is the age when they should be learning how to read in a simple way, it's not about, oh, okay, learn the ABCs. With a lot of knowledge nowadays, we are quite familiar with the fact that learning the ABCs does not help you learn how to read, because if you see
Sure.
apple, it doesn't say apple, right? So you need to learn the letter sounds and not the letter names. So
Yeah.
being able to expose your child to the skill of learning how to read from that 3 to 5, and even learning how to write. Now, learning how to write is not just about using pen and paper or using pencil. It's about being able to even sometimes put letters together, or just making some scribbling, drawing and painting, a lot of little activities here and there that helps to build that skill. And a lot of times from the actual act of writing or playing with letters, then they become interested in reading. And when they learn to read, then honestly, it now means they're no longer trying to do, getting that literacy part. They are now focusing more on on reading to actually learn particular topics. So I know one of the things that we found very helpful was that when our older daughter started reading, she was now able to say, okay, if she says she wants to learn a particular thing, oh, how is ice cream made? You give her a book about ice cream, right? So can we confirm we're still here? I think we please just confirm you can still hear and see me. I think Madam Vera is off for a minute, but she should be back soon. Okay, so I just need one confirmation that you can hear and see me. I see we are still connected. Okay. Okay, I can hear. Okay. So just the video, I think the video went off. So I'll just go ahead pending when Madam Vera joins us back. So I was talking about moving from learning to read to read to learn. So once you take advantage of that sensitive period and your child learns how to read, then you now want to start exposing them to as many books as possible, because again, we're trying to link reading to academic performance. How does this connect? Now, if your child wants to learn a particular subject, or they want to learn even how cars are made, right? You may not be able to visit all the car factories. You may not be able to visit every different place, but there's almost a book for everything. Now, if your child already loves reading because they build that habit, they build those routines, they build that skill, then you don't even have to be teaching your child every single thing. You want to learn this? Oh, there's a book for that. The way they say there's an app for that. That's the same way you just say there's a book for that. We have the moment our daughter started reading, we just started getting different types of books. We got some books from National Geographic. If we go to the library and maybe she has been asking about, she wants to know if she wants to learn about butterflies or something like that, we just ask the librarian, do you have any book about that? Sometimes we check recommendations and then we purchase the book, especially if it's something that we're going to be using more often. So definitely building that love of reading, building that love of books is very helpful to now allow the child to succeed in school. But the truth is that if your own focus for trying to build your child's reading habits or your child's reading skills or reading abilities is just for them to pass exams, then they are going to lose interest very fast, right? So you want to make sure you're building their love of reading in general, that reading as a skill, reading anything, reading everything, and also building on their interest, right? When they love reading, then they'll be willing to read anything, even their school books, right? It will be interesting for them. I remember at the point, because I was reading so much when I was growing up and I enjoyed it, right? So even then, when I would get new books for school, sorry, 1 minute. Okay. Okay. So you
I'm
can hear
back.
me now. Yeah. So I was just saying, building the love of reading was more important, not just for school books, but for general books. So that, like I was sharing an example of me growing up, I got to love reading so much that if I see a book anywhere, right, I'll just pick it up and start reading. Sometimes if the book was torn, I don't know if some of us had that experience. If the book stopped halfway, I'll finish the story myself. Like, so if I even got, when
Right.
a new term is starting, and we
Mhm.
had these literature books, I would read it up before school starts. Nobody had to tell me to read it because I had already developed that love of reading. I would read if I had maybe if I didn't like a particular subject, I may not be keen on that textbook. But if it was something that I liked, or just the fact that it had some stories or it was colorful, I would read it. I didn't have to have anybody to chase me around, right? So
Sure.
build that love of reading, and then the child's academic performance, academic success will automatically be built, because then they can read both their own fun books and they can also read the school books happily and be getting knowledge from it because they already know how to read. So the reading skill is key. And once they have it, then they can read other books as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's such a perfect connection. So the goal should be to move our children from learning to read to reading to learn. I think that the key message there is, let us establish the fact that reading is a lifestyle. If you're a parent here, or if you know a parent who is struggling with their child's academic performance, Miss Nkem has told us that it's not about ABC and 1, 2, 3 and
Yeah.
literature and math. It's about developing a love for reading, lifelong learning.
Yeah.
And while you were talking, you said something very remarkable, and that is the part of reading instructions, reading labels, reading instructions.
Everything.
I remember in the inner circle of the Intentional Parents Academy last year when we had the safety class, and then it was repeated again this year. But last year when we had the safety class, and I realized that I hadn't taught my children to read instructions. As minor as that seems, that is a way to improve a child's situational awareness, and that is what I call success.
Yeah.
Call it academic success, call it intellectual success, whatever
Yeah.
success you want to call it. A child needs to be alive and be alive, not
Yeah.
to be alive and their mind is in Lagos and the soul is in Canada, or in the other way around. A child needs to be present at all times. So I picked something from that lecture and I began to teach my children that wherever you see anything, instruction, medication, toys, Legos, whatever it is that you see, you must first read the instruction. What am I trying to do? I'm trying
Mm.
to inculcate that reading culture by force. You will read anything and everything. As long as it does not contradict our values, you're going to read it. And that's what is actually the academic success that we're looking for. There is nothing else. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell a little story about myself. So I was one of the brightest kids in school back then, but it didn't take away the fact that I was also ignorant and naive for the most part of my life, right? Because I wasn't taught to read as a lifestyle. I was just taught to read and pass. And because the smartness of the brain, I knew the right time to read for me. I knew my highest energy peak cycle. So it was just working for me. I read and then I understand and then I pass and then I had a first class and then after all of that, what next? It didn't make me a better speaker after leaving school. It didn't make me more confident. It didn't make me more what's it called now? Articulative when it comes to conversations. It didn't make me. It was the game changer was when I immersed myself into a reading habit such that I don't start any day without opening the pages of a book, no matter how short the time is, right? Many of us were reading to pass. So as parents, this topic was carefully selected because we know that a lot of people want academic success, but we're not here to talk about academic success in the sense of we're here to talk about lifelong learning, raising children who are curious, children who are hungry, children who want to know more, children who are inquisitive to learn. Yes, thank you, ma'am. So we move on to the second part. The second part we will talk about today is building a strong reading habit at home. Before I give it over to you to talk about, I wrote down some things and I said that the home is the first school or the first learning place of a child. That even before the child is enrolled in a school, learning has long taken place. So that takes me back to my initial introduction, which says that the environment is bigger than nature. In fact, it was my mentor coach when she would say that a child's intellect is made up of two parts, or a child's intelligence, or whatever you want to call it, the nature and the nurture. Nature is the genius that the child was born in, the God-given talent. Nurture is the parenting. Nurture is the environment that you expose that child to. So while nature points the gun, why nature points the gun, nurture pulls the trigger. So in the sense that nurture actually has the final say. So a child who is born a genius can end up an idiot, in quotes, with the wrong in the wrong environment. So I want you to talk to us about what can we as parents begin to do in our houses, in our homes, knowing that the house is the first school. Whether the child dresses up on Monday to go to school or not, as long as she sleeps and wakes up in your house, she is learning. So what exactly is she learning? Are we intentionally positioning what they will learn, or are we just waiting? In fact, so many years ago I was like that. I used to say, how can I pay hundreds of thousands to a school and I'm still struggling to be doing home lesson work and all of? Please go to school and go and learn, because that's why I paid. I was like that. I'm confessing now. Until I hit knowledge and I gave myself brain to know that I am the first teacher of my children. Nobody else can teach my children more than I can teach. So what are the practical ways? How can we achieve this thing? Make our house proof and filled with opportunities to learn and grow. Hi, we have a third guest. Co-host has just appeared. How are you?
Hi, say hi.
Hi, how are you? You're pretty. Okay, ma'am. So, what are the practical steps we can achieve this to help us make our house learning proof? All right. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much. And I'm going to dive right into that. I have like 5 different points I would say are very helpful for building those strong reading habits. And one of them, the way I'll term it is books everywhere. Books everywhere, printed material everywhere, whether it's handwritten. If you look behind me, I have some printed, some things I used to motivate myself. And me too, I'm also fostering my own reading habit. And sometimes if printing is going to take time, I write it with hand and I laminate it, I put it up there. So the same thing for the kids, right? I have so we have problem solving steps. There's one on the wall. We have conflict resolution is on the wall. So they are seeing this thing. And it goes back to the point you raised about reading instructions. And I found out that if children don't get used to reading small guidelines here and there, even in the home, steps for using the toilet, steps for now, what concerns toilet with academic success, right? But then they are reading. They look at the picture, okay, pull down this, raise this, flush this. They are seeing the picture, they are seeing the text. which means every day they look at that picture, it's an opportunity to read and pick up some words. And then they also know that because in their home, they are fond of seeing little instructions here and there that are very simple. When they go outside, if they go to a washroom, for instance, and they see a poster on the wall, if your child is not used to reading posters or simple instructions, a poster on the wall will just be like another shadow, right? They won't even look at it, which means they will also be missing some key instructions. The same thing, if they don't get used to reading those kind of instructions in a washroom, for example, maybe the washroom that says this toilet is out of use, they'll just go inside and then step into whatever they see. And then instruction still goes to when they are in school. So academic success, coming back to academic success, when you get an exam paper or your quiz or whatever it is, and it says, if you just dive right into it, like, oh, this is just connect the dots. And maybe you now see the instruction says connect every other dot, but you saw a set of dots, and your child will be feeling so smart and sharp, and they just join everything and be like, so simple. And then they miss the instruction because they don't, who is who is instruction, like what is that, right? They're not used to it. So you want to have some of these simple routines everywhere with pictures and text to attract them. And then you want to have books everywhere. So books, yes, you might have a library, which is very good and very recommended. But we found out that besides having libraries, we try to have books in every room. So as long as you don't spend your time in only one room of your house all day or every time, it means you need to have books in the living room. You need to have books in the, if they have a playroom, if they have their bedroom, even your own bedroom. Because what happens is that if you have books only in one spot, you now have to get up and say, now I am going to read. No. But when you have books everywhere, it means sometimes, like sometimes I have like 2 or 3 books I'm reading at a time. So I might have one in the car, I would have one in the living room, and then I'll have one in the bedroom. So if I'm so let's say you're just having a break somewhere, instead of you defaulting to your phone, you can just say, okay, which book is here? Am I in the mood for this? You choose, you make your choice from 1 or 2. This is even for you as an adult, but the same for children. Now, you start off by getting them 1 or 2 books. Before you know it, they have quite a number of books in the house. We also use the library for sure, but sometimes you still need that your own personal collection because not everything is in the library. And for books that they use long term, you also want to have access to it in the house. So it means that, for example, if you walk into where I am right now, there's a small box of books. Our daughter that just joined in, she has picked one from there. If she's in her room, bedtime, we don't need to go to a different room or start going to the library to get books. We just pick there. Okay, what are we reading for bedtime? We have a collection. It could be Bible stories. It could be academic, like in quote, academic things. Oh, how are rocks formed? So in every room, we have that collection of both religious books, academic-ish books, whatever kind of interest it is. In the car, also the same thing. Now, the second point I also have for building that reading habit is based on their interest. Now, a lot of times we might be focusing on, oh, I want you to learn this. Your mates are reading this. Do you know how so and so? You should do your math, you should do your English, you should do your whatever language. But then you forget the interest of the child. Remember, you're trying to build their love of reading, love of learning. So you have to start from their interest. If your child is interested in cooking, get them a cookbook. Let them look at cook magazines. If they're going to the grocery store, those flyers are free reading materials. Oh, pineapple, oh, watermelon. Just be building. Let them read anything. Anything at all is better than nothing. And that their interest is so key, right? If they're interested in cars, oh, look at this book about cars. That's the door, that's the window, blah, blah, blah. From reading about cars, or even if it's toy cars, right? Even sometimes their interest might be cartoons. Of course, we don't recommend screen time, but let's say you already started screen time and you're trying to, switch them from screens to books. One of the best ways is to look for a book about that show. So like we have this one, there's this show I remember seeing growing up, Dora the Explorer, as a cartoon. And then I found out that it has a book as well. Our daughter hasn't even seen the cartoon, at least to the best of my knowledge. But we have the book, we have the series. So you're now reading the cartoons instead of watching the cartoon. So if your child already has some of those interests and you're trying to win them off of the screen, check for the equivalent book. Like I even saw a book of princess stories, if that is what you're into, right? If there are sometimes where if you like whatever it is, start with their interest and then you can now move to. So I classify the interests in terms of what they want to learn. Whatever they want to learn, they'll be more interested in reading it than something that is just random, right? So start with what they want to learn, then move to what you want to teach them. So if, for example, you have some specific values you want to imbibe in them, like you're talking about kindness, then you get a book on kindness. But they have to start with that book that they love before you now move to the one that you want to imbibe something in them, right? If you want to move from, and then lastly, the books that would help to foster their interest, like, oh, this is a complex subject. Maybe you have things about the planets, for example, but then a book that shows the planets in a very fancy way, attractive way, will now make them get interested in reading again and just learning that, oh, they can actually find out things in books. So before you start saying, oh, which educative show is there? I know we're on YouTube, yes, but before you start saying which educative show can teach my child this and that, ask yourself which book can actually address this topic. So that as much as possible, they're exposed to books over and over again. Now, the third part in terms of building reading habits is routines. If you don't have a routine for it, it's almost like saying if you don't have something on your calendar, on your schedule, it's not going to get done. There is distraction everywhere. There's like everybody is just, drawing our attention here and there. So if you don't schedule it, it's not happening. So the same thing for reading. Once you have, in fact, any habit you want to build with yourself, with your kids, you need to have a routine that you tie it into. When I'm teaching the parents in the Montessori home education program, I normally tell them, okay, this particular activity, now you've taught the skill, you're building the habit. What can you tie it to? Are you going to tie it to bedtime? Are you going to tie it to mealtime? Something that you know that is guaranteed to happen. You must eat, you must sleep. So will you do it anytime you want to sleep? Will you do it anytime you wake up? So reading is something that, for example, we typically do before nap times or before bedtime. And once you have even just those small windows of opportunity that is consistent, you already have 5 days, 7 days a week that you're doing this. You read a lot. You don't have to read the whole book, especially for kids, just one page. Sometimes you just point at the pictures you're talking to them, right? So having routines and time, typical times when you can fit it in is very helpful. The fourth point I would say is waiting times and travel times. I remember, I think it was when I was doing my hair the other time. I read an entire book, Connect to Correct. That was by Coach Wendy. I've finished, or at least three-quarter of it. I read it while my hair was being done, right? And again, children are watching you. When they're doing their own hair now, they are defaulting to reading a book. Maybe they'll have, oh, I want to make my hair. I'm going to pack like 3 books that I'll read while the hair is going on, maybe like for the kids, right? So it mustn't even always be a show. I know there's been some debate on, oh, how do you get them to sit still? Sometimes if you need them to sit still for too long, then maybe the hair is too complicated for their age group, right? So any time you're going to maybe the clinic, the doctor's office, and you're going to wait, especially if it's not an emergency, have a book. So that's why I said books everywhere. If you have a book in your bag always, or in your car always, or even in the kids' backpack, we have, again, in the car, in front of their car seat, they have like 2 different stashes. You pick one that you want to read. So even in the car, when people might say, oh, they need to be entertained again with a device, they have 2, 3 books to pick from, and they are loving it. They don't even know what it means to have tablets in the car. Like, it's not even an option anymore because everybody is just used to having those books. So make sure that the travel times, if you're using the bus, if you're using the train, make sure you have a book, because if it's a missed opportunity and if you use it for scrolling, you're kind of losing that time, and also you're missing the opportunity to model it to your kids, and also for your kids to build the same habit of reading. And then the fifth point I would say is audiobooks. So for us, we do a lot of story time. We use YouTube, for example, to listen to some stories. When we go to pick them up from school or something like that, we just put it playing on the speaker so we can listen to these stories. And then I remember the time we read the story of Jonah in the Bible, and then picking them back from school, I just put the story of Jonah from Mino Kids. So they're listening to, oh, Jonah, so they're connecting the text with the audio. If your child maybe is an auditory learner, it even gets them interested. Okay, they've heard the story before, now they read it in a book. Or they're a visual learner, they've read the book before, they hear it on something like that. So you're also connecting once you're able to connect multiple senses and engage the child as much as possible, these are all different things that are going to help to build the reading habit. So I think, so those are the 5 main areas. Hopefully, at least you'll see the one you can start with right away, to help build your child's reading habits.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, ma'am. I don't know why the chat room is
Oh,
not buzzing. Nobody's
okay.
chatting. Please, Bolu, can you confirm that we're good?
Okay.
The chat, we can see the love emojis. Thank you very much. But Kim deserves more than the love emojis.
Oh,
Put a comment there. Let's see. But for me, I've taken away a lot, and I try to rephrase all that you've said. All in one word, all that you've said is intentionality. I read a book, and the writer says, nothing works that is not worked. Nothing works that is not worked. There's nothing
yeah.
to, when you leave stuff to chance, it doesn't work. Growing up, there's this popular saying, they say, what will be. But
Ah,
then I read a book again, and the person says, what will be will not be. until somebody makes it.
Makes it to be, yeah.
Yes. So that is what I hear you explain here all day, that intentionality is the key. As parents, we need to deliberately select or choose to choke our children with books. That's the right word. What I wrote in my note, I said, you said books, books everywhere. I said books in their faces.
Yeah.
Books in their faces. In the morning, in the afternoon, in the night, on the road, when asleep, breakfast, lunch, books. That's what I hear you say. Make it in such a way that the children are growing up with books. It's part of their habitat,
Yeah.
books. And it's so stressless. It takes away a lot of stress for you from us as parents. All you need to do is to invest in it, right? Buy the books. And there are lots of thrift stores, lots of local stores where you can get good books. And of course, the Reader's Corner Book Hub also has very affordable books that can meet your needs. So that's your first point, books in their faces. The second one is you start with what the child likes and then you move to what you want to teach them. Yes, this is a very important aspect. I hear some people say, oh, because I have a bookstore, when they come in, they say, oh, I want novels, I want this kind of book, I want comics. And I said, okay, for now, we don't have novels. We want to go straight to self-help and personal development books, because we know that there in school you have to.
Okay. Oh,
Can anybody
um,
hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I think
Miss Perpetua said she can hear
she can
Vera.
hear you. Okay, okay.
So, admin, can you confirm? Can anybody else hear me? Oh, they can't hear me.
Oh, how come? And I can hear you very well. Can you see if I don't know, the mic or something?
Okay, it's
It's
breaking.
breaking. Okay.
We can hear now. Thank you very much,
Okay,
Ma.
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So, and then the next one you talked about is routines. In our last YouTube live, we mentioned the steps to setting the system for consistent reading and also to optimize your reading sessions. Please, if you've not watched that video, go to the Reader's Corner YouTube live stream. You will see the live stream of last month.
Okay. Aha, yeah, Traffic University. I remember that from 5 a.m. club.
Miss Perpetua said she can hear me. Please,
Oh,
can you confirm that you can hear us? Can you confirm, admin? Can you confirm? Let me know if it's just from her end or it's a general problem.
yeah, because I'm hearing. Okay, someone else can't hear again. And
Again,
and I haven't lost you at all throughout. I've been hearing you
and I can
consistently,
hear
but
my.
I'm not sure. Hmm.
They can
Uh,
hear me. Okay, I can hear you now.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So the
Maybe the
waiting
network. Yeah.
is akin to traffic university. You see, in the world of today, the period of traffic is when we flip off our phones and we begin to scroll TikTok, Instagram. But a lot of people are getting smarter, getting wiser, and getting richer during the time in traffic. So traffic university, the the people in Lagos. So while others are complaining about traffic, oh this, you embrace traffic and make the best out of it. Ah, and you make the best out of it. So, and then the last one you mentioned is audiobooks. And what came to my mind when you said this one is your learning style. These audiobooks will favor those who are auditory learners best, because they, but now we can hear. Okay, thank you. Because they would tend to soak in better when they hear what they hear, right? Whereas for visual learners like me, if I hear something and I have not written it or felt it, it's
Yeah.
like it's 20 80 chance that I will retain it. Yeah. So thank you very much for breaking this down to us. Um, in my third question, you briefly touched on it when you were responding to the second question. So I would like to slightly change the question, and I want to ask you, what's your view on novels? I mean, talking about selecting the right kind of book. Now, what's
Okay.
your view what's your view on novels and self-help and personal development books? How do you think that um readers can make the best out of these two categories of books? Because for me, I feel like one is for fun. There's nothing so much to pick from there, and then
Mm.
comics are there, and then but you have the self-help books, which I told my daughter, I said you use one stone to kill two birds. The sense that you're you're strengthening your neural pathways, because the more you read, the more they are firing. So you're getting better. You're able to unlock your speed of thoughts. You're able to, understand things, conceptualize issues faster. And then at the same time, you're learning. But for novels, you're just only wiring the neural pathways. You're not really learning so much. But I want to hear a second view on this, because I might be wrong. You are the teacher here. So
Oh no, no. We're all teachers. The experience is, I think, our experience is all valid. Two things that crossed my mind is that when it comes to reading novels versus reading self help, or even reading academic books, it reminds me of what I said earlier on in the session, where I said move from telling kids or even just saying read your book to read a book. Like, I strongly believe reading an instruction on the wall is very valid. Reading a magazine. I remember I went to the library the other day, and I saw a magazine that had something about children picking up garbage for recycling. It was just a fancy magazine. I said, okay, it looks colorful. We took it home. After reading that book, we started talking about, oh, our neighborhood, there's a place that needs some pickup. And it led us to do that. So now that's an activity that just came from reading a magazine that doesn't necessarily count as an academic book. It's just like a fun entertainment thing. Now, reading novels, I think, are actually wonderful. Like, they are so what you pick. It might not look like you're picking something initially, but I think what I noted is that when it comes to reading anything at all, the skills you get from it are very transferable. So when you're reading a novel, you're very, very engaged, especially if it's something that you like. You can concentrate. I remember when I started. So this is not an advert for Harry Potter series. I know there are different perspectives, but I read it when I was much younger, and this is a book that is like this, right? But because of how captivating it was and all those things, and then I was reading and reading and reading, the light is getting dim. If the power goes off, you're still using torchlight, you're bending. So you're trying to finish a book that big. So what skill am I building with that? No, so again, like I said, the topic of the book is very, very crucial for you. I will not necessarily recommend it right now. The topic, the novels that your children will pick, is very important that you help them choose it based on your family values. But what skills I built from that reading that kind of way is concentration. Imagine being able to focus for hours reading a book because it's very interesting. So I'm building my concentration skills, because nowadays not everybody, but we are struggling with distraction. We can't pick up one thing and finish it. So being able, if a novel is what is going to give a child that skill to concentrate and finish something from start to finish, that is super. Now, what else am I learning from reading a book, reading a novel? You're learning structure. You're learning how books are divided into chapters. And I saw a quote. I can't remember. I didn't take note of the name, but it basically said, "Good writers are good readers." So when you read even a novel that seems just for, most of the time it's not for entertainment, just holding a physical book. Again, I'd highly recommend physical books over digital books. That's a different conversation altogether. But once you're able to hold a physical book, you're turning the pages, you're building your hand-eye coordination, right? When you're turning the pages, it is helping to trigger any learning that happens with movement. You're touching something. It is building your hand-eye coordination. Is building their concentration is so key. Concentration is like a currency that is so hard to get nowadays. So novels, because of the captivating stories, help a child to build it so very well, right? And then I think I also noted the other time, right? I said, we don't just read to know things, we read to grow. So even when you're reading a book and it looks like, again, if it's not academic, where you're not learning, oh, this is how this science thing happens, it might look like you're not learning anything. But if you're reading with that mindset of growing, what you might pick from it might be that you learn how to write. You learn that, okay, people, when you read many books by many authors, whether it's novels, whether it's self-help books, you learn how people actually write. And then the more experienced the writer you're reading from, the more experienced you as a person or the child will grow. I remember after reading a couple of books, then, like I said, growing up, there were just books everywhere, whether it was torn books, half books, full books, anything, right? Even the newspapers, I was hustling for newspapers. I was hustling for newspapers. If they come in, I'll check. I want to do all the puzzles inside. It was just exciting, just doing anything that had to do with any book and any paper. And I know someone might say, oh, it depends on the personality. But the thing is, that exposure, we were immersed in books so much that it didn't really matter what kind of book. And by the time I read so many, I started wanting to write. I remember writing a storybook and then I took it somewhere and said, oh, help me publish. The thing got missing, unfortunately. Nowadays, it's easy for your child to write something and you can publish it, right? But the other example I wanted to share that was very close was we in part of our Montessori program, we have practical life where we will basically do things around the house. So we were making stew. We read a book called Making Soup from the library. And then my daughter said, oh, we should do one for making, I think, okra soup. I was like, okay, that one might be an elephant project. So I started with stew, which was a bit more straightforward. So I said, okay, we're going to document it. So as we were making the stew, I was taking pictures. So we actually agreed that we're making a book about stew. So we went ahead, did that. So as we were taking the pictures, we now finished it. I went to my laptop using Canva, and then we started putting the pictures, and she was even pointing, oh, put this right there. So we're writing the book together. And we did this for making stew. So I have it here. It actually has, from when we picked the tomatoes to when we now made the stew. And then I also did it again for making butter. That one, the book is still in progress. But the third time, so one day she now picked up orange and said she wants to make orange juice. And after squeezing the orange juice, she said, oh, she wants to write a book about making orange juice. So this is now she has seen that books are not magic, right? They can be written by human beings. She has started reading so many books already, and now she's already thinking of writing her own. Again, this does not mean that everybody has to be a writer or whatever, but any book, every book is all very valuable as long as it's aligned with your family values. Your child is definitely learning something, either the skill of writing or the concentration they are building, or even just that general mindset about different areas of life. So that's it.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. You're doing justice to these conversations, and people are still saying network is breaking. But if you're
Oh,
here with us, don't let us ask for your chats. Please keep chatting what you're learning, re-echo what you're hearing as you're typing it. It's getting more stuck in your memory. We don't want to spend this long hour and then we go away and forget what we've learned. So please keep the comment section buzzing. That's the only way we feel that we're not here alone. Although we can the people online, but we want to be sure that we're sending the information. Thank you, Mrs. Perpetua, for jumping on this one.
thank
Um,
you.
just to add one more thing that came to my mind as we were answering is also that the novels actually, or whatever form of reading, also helps you to build vocabulary,
Oh, yeah.
right? It helps the children to build their vocabulary. It helps them to strengthen their grammar, strengthen their spellings. I remember one time or last year, one of my the goals for my daughter was to improve her spelling because she loves to write stuff, but I knew and figured out that she was missing a lot of spellings, and we embarked on that project to improve her spelling. We did spelling drills. We did spelling of things in the kitchen, spelling of things in the room. Sometimes when I'm too busy to tell her what to spell. I just tell her, okay, go to this room, write everything you can see,
Very
So I
simple. Yeah.
noticed the more she read, the more her vocabulary improved, the more she encounters new words, and the more she's able to spell better. Because another thing I did for her was to get her a journal, and I said, when you read and you see a new word, please write it down, memorize the spelling, ask me the meaning.
Yeah.
That's how you grow. Because to wrap it up, you said reading is not just
To know is to
like to
grow
know,
as well. Yeah.
to grow. Whatever dimension or direction that growth is happening,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. It all adds up at the end of the day. Thank you. That is a very important one for me. So now I know that it's okay for my daughter to read her novels, and
Yes,
maybe
please.
getting some few novels in the bookstore, in the Reader's Corner bookstore, just to satisfy the people who are always asking for novels, so that they can achieve their concentration, they can improve or understand better about learning structures and how books are written, so that they can become good writers if they want to write in future, so that they can build their hand-eye coordination, and then they can grow and of course improve their vocabulary, their grammar, their lexical structure, all of
Concentration, yeah. So
concentration. Thank you. And now we move to the last question. And it's been so far so good. If you're just joining us, we're having conversations on how to improve our children's academic performance through reading. We already established that the deal here is not academic performance, but it is lifelong learning. And
yeah.
Ms. Game taught us about moving from learning to read and reading to learn. Our goals as parents is to help the children develop the love for reading. Lifelong reading, it solves a lot of problems. And I wanted to chip in something when you were talking about steps to develop the reading habits at home. In
Yeah.
addition to what you said, I remember that when I was trying to get my children to become readers, one thing I did was the remove and replace strategy. So I looked at what they were currently feasting on, how they were passing their time, what they were engaged in, and I saw that it was screen time. And I knew that the screen time would not take them far in life. The knowledge, the skills that they need to excel in life are not found in the screen. So what I did was to remove the screen and replace with books. I replaced with books, and then I replaced with other toys that would help to also improve their concentration, hand eye coordination. So I did a lot of puzzles, Legos, and I mean books and all these things were all over
So
the house. And today,
put some.
that's one of the best decisions I ever made, because my children, when they are at their spare time, the screen time is one of the last things that comes to their mind. They are all rushing, to get their toys, their Legos, their bricks, and all of that. So if you're a parent, or you know a parent who is struggling to improve the child's performance in school, it is my mentor, Coach Wendy Loge, who says that when you get the
Thank
concept
you.
of learning right, you will sack your lesson teacher. Yes, you will sack your children's lesson teacher. Why? Because all of the learning they need to do can be done at home through everyday activities, through exposing them to the right resources, to the right material. So it is not rocket science. You don't want to have a child who does nothing about reading or about academic success at home, and then you push the child in school and expect overnight that the child's grades will be that. No, it doesn't work like that. I give you an example. So my daughter, she's 9, and because she does a lot of chores at home, she does cooking, she gets herself ready in the morning, packs her snacks, like she does a lot of things that I've taught her. And whenever she comes back from school, she'll say, Mommy, it looks like I'm the only one who even packs my snacks. It looks like I'm the only one who does this thing. And I ask her, how are you performing in class? Are you the only one that answers question? She said yes. I said, are you the only one that always gets, most times gets the awards in school? She said yes. Are you the person that who spells better in the class? She said me. Everything I asked her, she said, I said, that is because of what you're doing. They all add up. What makes a child brilliant is the what's it called, the neural pathways. How developed are they? How active are they? And a writer once says that when you stop learning, you start dying. Many of us are walking around with dead brains because we refuse to learn. We refuse to prioritize reading and continuous improvement. So that is, I mean, that it all ties together. How we can use one stone, just one stone of getting the child engaged at home, do chores, read books, play toys, play with games, and all of that. How all of that can come together and make a child excel is one of the wonders of God. And I'm happy that we have discovered that, and that is why we're having this conversation. So I'm going to go on to the last question for the day. Um, Thank you everyone for joining us. I can now encouraged, and we're very grateful that you're able to join us. Now, when you were answering the question, you were talking about starting with what the child loves. I think that the key message there is to make learning fun, fun, fun. So I want you to talk to us about practical ways that we can make learning fun. And I want to say this because a lot of our audience might have older children. You know, it's easier to catch them young. You know, when they are babies, you're doing all of this. But people that have teenagers that have already missed it, how can we still make learning fun? How can we foster the love for lifelong learning? We don't want to raise children who are forced to read. Like you said, you just saw books and you were struggling for books. That is the generation we're trying to raise now. The generation of children who would be debating about who read the most books in 2024. I read 58 and you read 75. Oh, let's say I'm going to read what. That is where we are going exactly at the Reader's Corner. We want to preach this gospel until every family becomes readers, because we know that the world, the very world, will become better than it is right now when we have people who have passion for lifelong learning. So I'm going to turn the question to you. How can we foster the love for lifelong learning? How can we make reading and learning fun for children and teens? Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I'm thinking of the best way to approach this. Um, I'll start by saying, which I probably said at the beginning of the video, our mission at the Montessori Home Education Academy is to foster the love of learning so that children can teach themselves. Now, what does that mean? It means that children are actually capable of teaching themselves. Now, I know, yes, the focus, when we say children, it might look like, oh, 0 to 6, which I talk a lot about, 0 to 6. But even teenagers, I believe that children, even adults, people, we ourselves, we are more primed, or we are more likely to learn things that we want to learn, right? So some of us, went to university or wherever we went to, for higher learning and so on. And we're just learning one course or the other. And when it was done, it was done. But now when it comes to adult education, courses that you actually pick by yourself, you find out that you're more eager to learn certain things. So I think the other day I just took a French educator training course, and ideally, or I'll say before now, if that was something that someone just assigned to me to complete, it would take a very long time. But because I was so interested, I wanted to learn this French thing and how to teach children French and so on and so forth. I think I took a whole night. I was just going nonstop, right? But if it was something else, like you told, because in school I did engineering, and then at some point I did project management. I even, when I was doing project management, I found out that I was kind of more curious about learning different things and picking up that interest than, let's say, when I was doing engineering, because engineering was more like, oh, that degree you're going to do, you want to finish it and come out, right? But when I picked subjects for myself, when I picked to study, study Montessori education training for teachers, I was so interested in it. Well, every book, every chapter, it was still work. It took time, but that interest was just there. So the love of learning, one of the best ways to foster it is by, I would say, okay, sometimes I'm trying to compress some of the Montessori principles that we typically share in our community or in the program. And that is, I would say, correction. Sometimes the way we correct children, or the way we try to teach them by fire, by force, by muzzle, and by directing them only in one path, right? Maybe you've heard that, oh, they're not doing well in this particular subject, and then you now start hammering them. You must read 10 hours of so and so every day. It just makes it worse, actually. And I know it might seem counterintuitive, or it might just seem, oh, what should we do then? They complain that he or she is not doing well in this. What you should do if a child is not doing well in one aspect is not to now push them. Like, you don't teach math by, or a child doesn't, how do I put it? You don't teach math with more math, right? You go back to that thing that they're interested in. And one thing we emphasize a lot in the Montessori program is observing your child. So even a teenager, you can observe your teenager. So for children, for observing your baby, you might look at the baby like, oh, I saw this baby, I started trying to stretch and reach up. It looks like this child is trying to learn how to stand. Then you start clearing the way for them. You start putting them where they can actually try to reach up to something. Maybe you see a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, they start holding a book and saying, they might actually say, oh, I want to know how to read. Or they're always asking you, read to me, do this. You're picking up on that interest, that this child is getting very interested in reading. That is the time to start helping them with reading. Now, with your teenager, what is that thing that they are showing you? What is that thing that they are telling you, whether with their words or with their actions, that is their interest? You have to start from that. Interest is so key. That's why you have to observe it. And when you start from what they like, you move from what they like to what they need, right? So your teenager maybe doesn't like reading currently. They want to just play football. Okay, fine. You can just find a project about it that will involve them writing or reading about maybe football skills or football players. Again, if they're just writing about, okay, maybe how many clubs that they have, whatever aspect of football they find interesting, right? How can you now get in that let's say reading practice or writing practice? So you have to start from what they like and then look for the best way to now connect it to what they need, right? So if a child is so example, even with math and counting, let's say the child is like, oh, they don't want to add, they don't want to subtract, but then they love cooking. Then use that cooking to teach them maths, whatever it is that they like, whatever it is they love, that will be the best way to now get that love of learning, love of reading. And like I was sharing the example of the audio books. So if you have a child, maybe they don't want to read a book, they're not so interested, but they want to listen to stories. You would now start off with stories that they like to listen to, and then you now give them a book version, like, oh, this is the same story. It actually makes it easier for them because now they've heard it before. It's not like they're starting from scratch to read that book. But again, Vera has talked about a lot of neural pathway connections. Once you're able to introduce a particular topic to a child, a person, anybody at all, a human being, once you can introduce a topic in more than one way over different periods of times, it makes it easier, right? So if you want to build that love of learning, then you have to first start from the child's interest, the child's focus, their own sensitive period. If they're interested in arts, right, then you get them a book about learning how to draw or learning how to paint. There will still be words in those books. Before you know it, they are reading about artists. Before you know it, the reading habit is picking up, and then you're moving again to what they now need in terms of now you defining what they need. You have to make sure it's not just biased based on, oh, you want them to be a scientist. Then you say what they need is so and so, right? So you just have to make sure that whatever you're trying to teach a child, I think ultimately 5 to 15 minutes is enough to teach a child anything, because your goal is not to teach a child everything that they need, but you want to ignite that spark, right? So you want to build a love of reading. First of all, put books all over their faces. Again, you have to definitely manage screens, because if there's screens, it will always be the default preference. Screens are flashy, they are shiny. For you to make sure that that can happen, you have to make sure that there are books everywhere, and then the children can now educate themselves, pick things that they're interested in, pick the magazines about football, and that would now take them from their interest in football to the interest of reading, and generate that love of learning altogether.
Amazing. Amazing. That's very fantastic. You keep emphasizing on starting from what they like.
So key.
Yes, so key.
Yeah.
So key. I think that's the crack code, because
Yeah.
recently I watched a video on on Instagram, right? This family, the woman was trying to teach the children to pray, and she was just being so aggressive. Say Badura, she was just making noise, beating the children. I'm like,
Oh my goodness.
and the children were just looking. And the funniest thing, that the more she raised her voice, the more the children fell asleep during prayer time. So we've proven that forceful teaching or
It doesn't
forceful,
help.
yeah, it doesn't deliver any results. So if you're a parent here, or a parent here who is forcing their children, that might be the wrong approach. Why don't you consider starting from what they like? Like she illustrated, a child who loves basketball, you can pick a book on basketball and begin to read about biographies, autobiographies
Yeah.
of basketball players. What have you done? You are teaching them what they like, but then they're also learning to read,
Yeah.
right? So there's just, it's beautiful when you have the right information. Then you see that teaching a child to read is actually fun, fun, fun. Before we call it a day today, I would like to mention that our guest today, Miss Inkem, is also an author. She has just
Oh,
released some books. I'll
yeah.
let her the next few minutes to talk about her newest books. And we know we're talking about the love for learning. So we need to be able to diversify, go beyond English and math, bring in languages, bring in technology, bring in biographies, different stories, whatever will make this brain sharp. Let us let us feed
Yeah.
our children with it. So she's done a new book with her colleague on languages, and I'll let you talk about it for a moment. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. So, the two books in question, there are quite a number of books if you have my author link on Amazon. But the first one here we have is Abichi the Igbo, and the second one is Abidi Yoruba. So these are Nigerian languages and they are bilingual. The good thing about them is that I wrote it using the Montessori approach. I say since I learned about Montessori a few years ago, everything I do is with a touch of Montessori. Now, earlier on in the video, I was talking about how you don't learn reading by just your ABCs. If your child can sing ABC to Z, good. That's good. It's a good song, but it doesn't help them to read because
Yeah.
you don't read by saying the alphabets. Okay, right. So when with my daughter, when she started showing interest in reading around 3.5, At the same time, I also wanted her to start reading our native language, which was Igbo language. And so I started thinking about, writing a book about it, because I checked, there were some books available, but the approach, again, was different from the Montessori approach. Now, with the Montessori approach, when we teach, we try to focus on one thing at a time. Remember, we've talked about concentration. Okay, I think Perpetua said that my children love it. That's very good. We've been getting very good feedback from those using the books. When we teach, I'll show an example of why books like this are very helpful. So you see a sample page here. So this is from the Igbo book, and this is letter H. So it has the tracing. Now, with Montessori approach, movement is very key. So anything that the child is doing, I know we talk about learning styles, visual, auditory, and also kinesthetic, plus, a blend of all of them. But what happens with the Montessori approach is that we try to always make sure that whenever a child is learning, they are combining more or less those three approaches. So what happens in something like this is the child opens the page. Notice how this whole page is focused on letter H. It's not about, we're not trying to, maximize space. You're not putting A, B, C, D. You're not putting cartoon pictures. Now, especially for younger children, real life pictures are so valuable and so key, because when you move, creativity starts from reality to imagination and not the other way around. If you start off by showing them unicorns that don't exist, then what are they going to create from a unicorn? You start off by showing them a horse, and then they can now say, oh, what if the horse could fly? It should go the other way around, because if they start from reality, then they can really build their imagination thoroughly. So this book, for example, you have the letter, and the child can trace it. While they are tracing it, they are learning how to write the letter. It's making it stick. That movement, just that simple movement with the fingers, tracing it and saying the sound, huh. Now, they're not saying H. Now, again, this is Igbo, but even with English, right? If you're trying to say horse, happy, you're not saying H. Oh, sorry about that. You're not saying HAP or something like that. You're saying happy. So the sound the letter makes is more important than the name of the letter. So this book now, for learning the Igbo alphabets, which was the same approach with the Yoruba book as well, we talk about tracing it to learn how to write it, and also the sound that it makes, followed by this. So this is showing someone roasting corn, which is called hoa in Igbo, and that is roast. So the English is even so minimal so that it doesn't distract you from the Igbo one, right? Now you have some books where they are bilingual, but because they're not using the Montessori approach. Now, yes, I'm definitely biased about Montessori because it works. Like, it's powerful. It's a 100-year method. It was started by a medical doctor, but then it's been tested, researchers, scientists over and over again, keep reproving the same thing that was tested. So when it is an Igbo book, the focus is the Igbo language, and then you just have a small translation here that you just see, okay, in case you still can't get what the picture is about, this is what is happening here. So they are moving with their hands, they are getting the sound, they are looking at the picture that is very catchy and real life, and then they get also let's say the main game changer here is being able to pronounce this word using words they already know. So there's a concept in Montessori that is known as moving from known to unknown. So a child already knows, let's say they're already familiar with English language, and they know that H makes this sound. So you can even look at this and say, oh, even if you didn't understand that, okay, this was the pronunciation, they are seeing the signs, they are seeing this, they are picking it all from one page. So there's no distraction. Everything on this page is about one letter, right? So this is the same format that is used all through. The pictures, honestly, I find the book very interesting, but what else will I say, right? So the same for the Yoruba book as well. In fact, one of the things that motivated, so I co-authored the Yoruba book with Olufisayo Afolabi, and the Igbo book with Dr. Chido Ezika. So before I co-authored the Yoruba book with Olufisayo, what she said was that she actually got the Igbo book, and her children were able to read the Igbo book. And this being pure Yoruba and speaking Yoruba. So it's one of the highlights again is that bilingualism is something that is very key, very essential. I did a video about it where I talked about why it is important for your child to know more than one language. And one of the things is this: the parts of the brain that are developed when you speak more than one language are not developed by any other, will I say, activity, so to speak. So sometimes we may find ourselves saying, oh, you want your child to learn French, to learn German, maybe some languages you feel for some reason are more crucial or more critical. But the truth is that whatever language your child knows, in addition to like just knowing more than one, has already opened a new door for them. And once they know a second language, and what better second language than your own native language, or the one that you are able to teach them from the comfort of your own home. Once they know a second language, the benefits are multiple, but I'll just list a few. So one of them is that they can easily learn a third, fourth, fifth language. And of course, the earlier, the better, right? 0 to 6 years, that is the perfect age. But even 6 to 12, again, that interest, because it's something that is maybe tied to your culture, or you can connect to it in some way, it makes it very easy for them to pick. Another thing that helps people that know more than one language is they are able to multitask, right? There's just this intelligence, separate kind of intelligence that cannot even be explained, that comes with a second language. And it has been tested with research that people that know only one language, there are some skills that they just don't exhibit because that part of their brain was never activated, was never triggered, right? So whatever additional language your child can learn is a big plus. If you're talking about academic success, pick a second language and start learning it. And if you already have a second language yourself, you can teach your child, and you now need that literacy. Definitely, these books are for you. The good thing, just the last thing I'll end up with is we had started with the Igbo one. So when our older daughter saw the Yoruba one, she started comparing. Oh, this is, is I think it was teeth, because we have teeth in both books. And she said, oh, in Igbo it's showing Eze, and then in Yoruba it was saying was it Eyin or so? Let me
Mhm.
verify. I'm also learning. I think I learned quite a bit in the process. Yes, a. So she was looking at those two, and now you can't imagine the kind of skill she's getting by seeing the same object can be called by multiple names. This is something you cannot get if you're not speaking a second language. So definitely, I highly recommend it. Yes, I would recommend it because I'm also involved. But even if I
Yeah.
wasn't involved, I would highly recommend it. So thank you very much for
Amazing.
that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Miss Nkem. And I myself, I got a copy of the Igbo ones for my kids, and the very day they landed, they were able to read the alphabet, the words, because it's very simple to understand. So, and if you're in Canada, in North America, the Reader's Corner bookstore also stocks the books. So feel free to reach out to us, and we can send the copies to you. The book is actually very good, colorful, bold letters, easy to understand. So wrapping it up, we have about 6 minutes to wrap this up. And we want to say thank you to all of you that are still with us on the call. We had a network challenge at the beginning, so we lost about 30 minutes trying to fix that. But thankfully we did that. So in these few minutes, if you have any questions that you want us to answer in today's conversation, please drop it in the chat right now so we can take the questions. While we're waiting for the questions, I also wanted to use the opportunity to say that the month of May is a very significant month for us at the Readers Corner Book Hub. In 2 weeks' time, it's going to be my birthday, so we're going to have lots of birthday slash what's it called, price slashes, sales, especially for those in Canada. Yes, and we are also going to be having the grand opening of the Readers Corner bookstore here in Canada,
Wow.
in the office in Canada here. Yeah, so that activity is going to be open for virtual attendance, because a lot of people have said, "Oh, Vera, we don't want to miss this." So we're going to have, particularly interestingly, we're going to have a raffle draw on that day, and the winner of that raffle draw is going to get a year-long supply of books. Yes,
Wow.
you get a book every month till the end of the year for free on the house. Why are we doing this? Because we want to encourage people to read. Our vision is to raise lifelong readers. That is why the Readers Corner Bookstore is here to supply you with the best selection of Christian books for you and your families. So if you're interested in that raffle draw, please reach out. We will send you the links. Just drop your details so that on the day of the raffle draw, the link to the virtual tour will be sent to you, and all of the adjoining instructions. Yes. So we don't have any questions right now. We don't have any questions. So I'm going to give it up to you one more time, Miss Inkem, to give us your closing remarks on unlocking your child's academic success one book at a time. Closing remarks. Thank you.
Okay. So I think just summarizing all that I've been saying, observe your child, observe your children, no matter what their age is. What are they interested in? Then start from there. Children are able to teach themselves once you foster the love of learning, right? You don't need to spend hours trying to teach your child anything. And even, yeah, parents are the first teachers, parents are the first educators. Madam Vera has also said that the home is the first school. So it's all the same thing. You're the first teacher by default. The moment you became a parent, you became a teacher, right? So, but it does not mean you have to know every single subject. You just have to have the basics and ignite. Your own is just to set that fire, put that fire on, put that spark, right? So that the children can take it from there. Once you just light a spark, 5 to 15 minutes, then let them be, right? Manage the corrections. You teach by teaching, not by correcting. You see your child is not doing something well, you don't start hammering them there and there. You plan a session for them. Oh, it seems you're struggling with this. Let's try this. Let's try that. And you just put the idea in them, and then they're ready to take it and run, regardless of their age, right? So teach them by teaching them, foster the love of learning, observe them to see their interest, and try as much as possible to get your children from learning to read to reading to learn. Again, well, for those of you that might be familiar with our program, we have the Montessori Home Education program that covers all those subjects, including reading. So you can reach out if you're interested in that. But really, it is not as difficult as we may think. You don't have to be a teacher. You're already a teacher. You don't have to be either way. You're a teacher. Right? You don't have to be a certified teacher, but by default, you're a teacher. But what you now need is those skills. What skills do you need to be able to actually teach your child easily without forming one entire school in your class? Books are some of the best teachers, right? So that's why you need to get them to be able to start reading, and then you just step back. You want to learn this? Here, there's a book for that. You want this? Go on, check it out, right? There's always a book for something. Before you look into that exciting video, I heard this is so educative, this can teach children heaven and earth, look for the book that can teach them that first.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well said. There's a saying I always say to myself, and I said, every problem has a solution written in a book. You just haven't read the book. So just to buttress what you said, before you start looking for the screen alternatives or research, get a book that addresses it. Is your child struggling with screen time? Get a book. There are books on screen time addiction. There are books on replacing and removing and replacing. If your child is struggling with anger management, there are books, very colorful books that teach them how to, manage their anger, take deep breaths, take a walk, throw stones, do stuff just to take away the anger. So for every problem that we go through life, whether as a parent or a teacher, as professionals, there is a solution in a book. We just haven't read the book. So take a moment time, reflect on wherever you're having difficulties. Is it financial difficulties? The books Think and Grow Rich, Money is in the Mind. All of those books will unlock that money that you're looking for. So for me, from the Reader's Corner Book Club, my closing remark would be, just like we've said all along, is the academic success we're talking about is fostering the love for lifelong learning. Once you achieve that, your child excels academically, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually, financially, and all around. So we're talking about all-round success right now, not just academic success. Thank you very much for being here with us. We really do appreciate your time. Thank you for those who stayed with us throughout when we had issues earlier in the session, and you're up here up to now. We really, really appreciate you. We can't see you, but we can see what you're writing, and we are happy that this session eventually held. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I don't. My video is not showing, I don't think, but you can still hear me, right?
I can see you.
Oh, okay, good.
And I can hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So we keep in touch. Reach out to us, both our YouTube handles. If you have any questions, clarifications, if you want to buy any of the books, please reach out to us. We're here to support you. And stick with us, because we bring you many more episodes of these enriching conversations. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye, everyone. Okay.
So she hid away while her sister made a lot of sense.
All right. Bye, everyone.